Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm the Gnarly Gnome. This is Cincy Brewcast. It's the voice of Cincy Craft. We're back, and I do mean we're back. We're back in several different regards because it's another week and another episode, and I know that you guys love it when we're actually consistent and put out episodes every week. I say we very loosely when I put them out, and my wife lets me sit down in the basement and edit and make a podcast. But we're also back here. Well, no, you know what? That's not true. This is the first time that I've done a podcast in this location. I've recorded many Bad Tom Smith podcasts over the years, a handful. This is the first time I think that we've done one from here. The best I can come up with in my head. So, first time here. We'll just put it that way. And it is kind of the first time because there has been lots of changes with Bad Tom Smith since the last time we did an episode. We'll just call it the first time. First time here at Bad Tom Smith. Welcome to the show, guys. Introduce yourselves. We'll start here with you, Brandon. Tell people who you are, what you do here, and what your favorite band is.
All right. I'm Brandon, and I do media and marketing for the company, but I also kind of dabble in everything else, like daily business operations and operations that happen here at the taproom. So I'm kind of all over the place with it. My favorite band is In Flames, Swedish melodic death metal band.
I have heard of In Flames, but I don't know if I've ever actually listened to In Flames.
They're fantastic. I love them.
Noted. Put on the playlist for the drive home. Go ahead.
And I'm Evan Braden. I'm the now head brewer of Bad Tom Smith. Sean's teaching me everything he knows of the recipes, what to do, his processes, because he's moved on to be the CFO of cruise development.
Right.
So I'm taking his position, and we're working together and making some good stuff together.
And favorite band?
I have to say Led Zeppelin.
All right, that's a good choice. I have
all time. Yes,
Led Zeppelin with you. Let's start off. We'll start easy. Let's just drink a beer, and because it is a craft beer podcast, and yes, we did have a fridge at one point. One of these days, I will have to make that little sound clip and do like from the beer taps or something like that. Where do you guys want me to start on this flight here that you so graciously provided?
I think we can go from this end over here. I think that's the Fink.
Yep.
Yes. So a lot of these beers have names that people are probably familiar with because a lot of them have been around name-wise since the very beginning, but have kind of evolved along that path, which is kind of the story with a lot of pieces of what Bad Tom is, and we'll kind of talk about that as we go. But talk about what this beer is and kind of how it got to where it is today.
So on Untapped, that's our most rated beer, has the most amount of ratings, and that's probably one of the oldest ones we have. It's gone largely unchanged over the years. It's we call it a red rye ale. Some people say it should be technically a Scottish strong.
Sure.
So we kind of go back and forth between that, but it's 8.8%. Doesn't taste like it at all. Super smooth, and that's probably my favorite beer we have here.
You get a lot of sweetness out of it that kind of balances out some of that boozy kind of big character of it.
Yeah, we just.
I definitely get the rye character.
Yeah.
I get that kind of, especially at the very end. You get that kind of bready, crackery kind of crispness.
Yep.
Not spicy like I think a lot of people think rye can kind of sometimes be. It still has some sweetness to it.
Yeah.
It's a great beer.
We actually just brewed a new batch of it on Friday. Me and Sean together, and we put so much rye in it that it doesn't quite become a stuck
it's just right on that edge.
But it's like the transfer over is a lot thinner than any of these other beers. So
it's delicious. I enjoy that a lot. That's one of my go-tos when I come here is grabbing a Fink, and I have seen kind of that beer. Not that it's changed that much, but it's evolved and gotten better and better and better over the years. And that's kind of what I like about those places, watching how it does change and evolve and hopefully keep getting better.
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of feel like that's the point of the beer community and breweries is improving and changing and kind of seeing what you can do better.
Yeah, it always used to be. I think that people have kind of got something in their head now that like when somebody opens their doors, they're supposed to be amazing right out of the gate, which is fine, and I don't have any problem with that. But there is something about that experience, especially if you're a regular somewhere, you're coming in once every couple months or something, and you're sitting down and you're like, all right, yes, what's new on tap, but let me go back to some of those beers that I had last time and see how they're changing and how they're getting better, see how the experience is getting better. And there's something fun about that I enjoy. And I maybe everybody doesn't. Maybe there is a segment of people out there that are looking for something else. I don't know.
I think it's got to be a good balance. You got to have some new stuff. You got to have the old stuff, and just keep on trying.
Let's start with the obvious stuff right off the bat. New ownership. Brandon, your dad, right?
It's my brother.
Your brother. Okay.
Yes.
Came in, bought the brewery after previous owners, John and Cheryl. A lot of people know them around town. They were looking to kind of get out of this for various reasons, and came in and talk about some of the difficulties that brings coming into a business that somebody else had put their spin on and their personality into, for good or bad.
Yeah.
and kind of trying to take that and spin it around and kind of put your own kind of twist on it without alienating the people that did love what they did to it.
Yeah, I mean, they were the ones that changed to this location from Eastern Avenue after they bought it. So we after my brother purchased it, we started finding out that we were running into some difficulties here in the community that weren't necessarily favorable to us.
Sure.
And there's a lot of like people that, every once in a while they would come in and like talk about what happened in the past. Some people never really felt comfortable here, or
They pissed a few people off.
there was some bad blood with previous ownership, and we didn't start realizing that until about almost close to a full year in after owning here, and like after we realized that, we started thinking, oh, we have to do some kind of like, we have to let people know that everything's going to be different. There's new ownership. It's not going to be the same. We have a different mentality towards owning a brewery and being part of this brewery system here in Cincinnati, because here in Cincinnati it's pretty great and it's pretty big too. Like the community is pretty cool. So we kind of just first and foremost, we were like, we have to do a grand reopening. Even though we've been here for a year already and owned it for a year, we have to start putting the word out that there's new ownership. So that's what we did. We did a grand reopening. It was pretty successful.
It was a fun night.
Yeah, and we tried to get as much as the community involved as we possibly could. We got the city involved. We got the arts people involved and everything. School of Rock involved. So we try to get the Matamore people here involved and stuff. So we tried to put our best foot forward.
That's the development that's kind of sprung
like
up around this building.
Yeah. And so we thought, okay, that's like the first thing we have to do is tell the community and let them know.
Can I ask a question that's probably a question that people are yelling at their phone or their radio right now? Why not just completely rebrand everything and, for lack of a better way to word it, burn it to the ground and then rebuild it?
Yeah, I mean, that was an idea. But at the end of the day, we went that full year with the current branding.
Mm-hmm.
And we started kind of liking it and liking the idea of what it was and how it started, because the brewer, Sean Smith, was the original owner and creator, along with two other partners. And so he was still here and brewing for us. And
if I might cut in real quick, the Bad Tom Smith name, he's a descendant of Bad Tom Smith.
Right.
So that, in my mind, that's respectful.
Yeah, and we wanted to also respect his legacy.
Well, and there's, and I know that I'm going to get somebody that sends me a text or an email afterwards, like, man, it doesn't matter. They should have rebranded it. Look, there's something about the Bad Tom Smith brand and the Bad Tom Smith name, this story of redemption in a lot of ways, depending on how you felt about or how you feel about who Bad Tom Smith himself was. But, when he was being hanged, he had supposedly asked for redemption and was this changed man and all this stuff. Like there is that side of it that like there's, okay, like that's the story of Bad Tom Smith too, over the brewery.
Really, it is.
Over time, like it's, yes, there's been some rough patches throughout the history of this brand and this brewery. in theory and hopefully it's a story of redemption from that. You're still building upon that and changing all of that and becoming something bigger and better than it was in the past. And I kind of like that.
Yep.
And again, maybe that's the type of beer drinker that I am and the type of craft beer lover that I am. But I enjoy that.
And also, in my mind, we got about 350 beer club members that started out under the Bad Tom Smith name.
Yeah.
If you rebrand that, it might piss some people off. So,
and along with that, it's also like the history that comes with it. Like, you know, Sean always told me the stories of like when they were starting out, there'd be like maybe 10 other breweries that came around 2013, along with Rheingeist and Mad Tree and a lot of the other big ones. And the fact that we started out at that same time and then we're from that same period, that also played a role in making the decision to keep the same branding and to do the hard work to change the perception of what people thought this place is and to make it something better. And that's a challenge we wanted to take up.
What are some of the ways that you guys have done that, have tried to take and build upon something that already existed and kind of take it to that next kind of to level? And obviously beer quality has got to be one of those things you try to keep improving there, but what are other things that...
Well, along with the beer quality and maintaining that's like first and foremost, because we are a brewery and that's our main goal, is to make beer that people can enjoy and like. And but along with that comes with like the branding side of things. And we focus on that a lot, putting our brand out there in any way that we can. Because I'm sure you noticed that we also been utilizing the mustache a lot.
Yeah.
And we thought after Winter Cincy Beer Fest last year, we were kind of like talking and thinking like, you know what, he has a mustache. What if we utilize it as its own thing also as part of our branding, make it fun and quirky?
Sure.
So we kind of want to go along with that. I think our branding is an important part because like that's where people recognize you're who you are, what you're doing. But it has come with its own challenges. But I think like with working with the branding, marketing it, merch, everything that we can do to like change again perceptions, because we've heard so much about like, oh, negative this, negative that about Bad Tom, that we were like, we have to change this. And branding, I think with any company is the number one thing. But the fact that we chose to stick with Bad Tom and the same branding, we had to have that challenge again of making sure that people kind of get that. You got
to find a way to communicate that. You know, when people see, the can sitting on a shelf, it's like, oh, this is different than the Bad Tom Smith that I used to know. What's going on here? Like, what is I recognize this beer name, but there's something else going on here. And like, it gets them to kind of, all right, let me get on my phone and start, Googling and figure out what's going on here.
Yeah, for sure. And with that, like, we hope that now, because like our cans have the mustache on it,
right,
and not the profile. That was done on purpose to kind of show a change. We're the same in the aspect of our beer, and kind of like the profile that we give with our beer, but image-wise and like what we want to do for the community, what we want to do as a brewery, the mentality has changed.
Yeah, the idea of what people are looking for from their craft beer brands has changed a little bit too. They are looking for something a little bit lighter hearted, a little bit more approachable, a little bit more. I'm trying to think of a good word. Something that appeals, a wider appeal, something that casts a bigger net towards more people. Yeah. And I don't know that I loved the original Bad Tom Smith branding, but I feel like it was looking for a very specific type of customer. And this kind of starts to kind of branch out a little bit and bring in a wider
less
range of people.
More brewery.
Sure, yeah. And there's I'm all about hanging out in the saloon and walk in the door and there's peanut shells on the floor and whatever.
The old Terry Surf Club.
Sounds like fun, but my wife's not coming with me.
Yeah. Yep.
My kids are gonna walk in the door and be like, "Dad, where did you take us?"
Exactly. And that's where we're trying to like change it. Like once my
That's
brother,
not true. My kids would love that.
once my brother took over ownership, it was about making it into a family business.
Yeah.
And family friendly. And that was a big thing that I think was missing before, was that family aspect of it all. My brother being a family man and everything, and he thought that was really important. Making it so as much as the adults can enjoy themselves, kids can enjoy themselves here too, and allow, for their parents to relax and have a good time, and it's just a good time for everybody.
Our vault turned into the kids area, by the way.
Put your kids in the vault.
The door doesn't close all the way, so they're safe-ish.
It was interesting, and I don't want this to be at all about John and Cheryl when they own the business, but when they took over their ownership, when they came in, neither one of them were drinkers.
Yeah, that's
very much,
the weirdest part.
And it was. They started to kind of understand it over time, but like coming into it, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna make this into this saloon, this," and it was like, I kind of see where you're going with this, but it's almost like it's a mindset that I think a lot of people think about craft breweries,
pigeonholing yourself,
instead of actually understanding what craft breweries are. And like as things have kind of started to shift toward this other side, like you start to they're starting to get it. They're understanding what people want out of their space,
and that's kind of like somewhat our position as well coming in. Like we weren't extremely well versed in the brewery system and like this world.
Yeah.
But I've taken it upon myself to do my due diligence and like educate myself in this world. Beer, how it's made. Sean has always, anytime you talk with Sean, he always puts in how something is made, the temperatures, the percentage of anything. Like he talks to you fully, so you can understand.
Right.
And I've been grateful about that. And so me, myself, like I was just that typical beer drinker that Bud Light, Modelo, Corona, that kind of stuff. Anything stronger than that was too bitter for me.
Right.
But I educated my palate, and like basically little by little kind of got used to it. And I've come to love it. I've come to love all different types of beers, IPAs, brown ales, dark beers, and everything.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with somebody being, I don't like bitterness that much, but there's a whole wide world of craft beer. I think there's a lot of people think, oh, craft beer, that's IPAs. That's those big, giant, bitter beers. Yeah. And I get that there are some people that do not enjoy that flavor profile. But there's something else that maybe you will enjoy. So don't think that you've got the whole wide gamut of what craft beer is just because you've tried an IPA once.
Exactly. The flavor profile is very expansive.
Like,
There's so many different types, lighters, darkers, everything in between. Like it's fun. And that's something that I've come to enjoy with starting to think of creating new beers and improving on what we have.
Sure.
Because I think that also goes with what we're trying to do as a change is listen to what people are saying. And if it's critically sound and not just someone bagging on it or something, we take note and then we think like, okay, let's taste, let's see different flavors. Let's see what we can do to make this maybe a little bit stronger or like really give it its full flavor and full profile, so that we can make the best product that we can make.
Yep, perfect.
And I think one thing we do really good is a good variety. There's some breweries that do almost all IPAs. Some do all ales. Some do a lot of lagers. I feel like we really cover every base.
I think you have to. And I think that there's a lot of people that are missing out by not keeping that kind of wide range available for people. Let's drink another beer.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to talk about kind of that beer journey when you're coming into a brewery where there's a guy that has been here for 10 years, involved with making that beer for those 10 years in some capacity, the capacity for the last, I don't know how many years it's been since it's just been him making the beer.
Yeah.
That's a hard kind of ride to jump on.
Oh, yeah.
Where should I go next?
So this number 2, that's McQuinn's.
This one here? All right.
That's actually with Sean. That's the first beer I brewed for us.
Okay.
So it's a Irish red ale.
How before we kind of dive too much into the beer, talk about that process of like that first brew day or the first when you're sitting here making this beer, kind of that I can't imagine like letting go of the reins of something like that is so personal to you.
Yeah.
Was it difficult kind of coming in and be like, hey, Sean, I got this. It's okay.
No, it's actually been really fun. Like, him. Like, he's one of the coolest guys in the world to talk to. He's very inviting and just wants to share his wealth of knowledge.
Right.
So, like, we've been just hip to hip for the past couple months. And with that one, it's like 11-hour day because you got to get the water up to 154 degrees, get it to the mash tank, get that done.
So you're still going off of his recipe for this?
Yeah.
Or so this is still just kind of, this is you making something that he...
Right, exactly. So it's just getting over the mash tank, mash for an hour, get most of it over, then sparge the rest of it, and it's just a long day. Getting the temperature down, transfer to the fermenter, all that fun stuff. So,
tell me about the beer a little bit. Irish red ale. I've got my thoughts already after tasting it. I want to hear kind of your take on the beer.
I was, I'm still fanboying about the Fink. I feel like it's like a Fink light.
Okay.
Like the Fink we use like 1,000 pounds of grain. That one we use 500 pounds. A lot of 2-row, I believe. Not too hoppy, but it's just a solid Irish red. I think
it comes off with this really great malt character for me. This great almost like cereal breadiness that I taste like a little bit of Cheerios and mixed with mixed with some fruity hops. It's good. I enjoy that. It's one of those styles that I think when people walk into a craft brewery and maybe they're a little intimidated and they're like, I know I like more flavor in my beer, but I want something that's kind of easy and approachable. Right. We got a red ale, we got an amber, whatever that may be, and this is right in that wheelhouse of easy, approachable. Yeah. Everybody's gonna like this beer.
There's very few beers that we have that people come in and be like, no, I don't like this at all. Like,
there's got to be a couple that people are like, oh, that's too much for me.
I'm not going to say it by name. There's one where we're not too happy with. Okay. But I'll say it off air. I'll tell you about that one. But for the most part, everything.
The board now, see if I can figure it out. No, I enjoy this one a lot. I'm excited to see kind of how you take your personal spins and start to put that on some of these things. Like, this was a great beer, but maybe it could go a little this way, or maybe it could go a little that way. What's your history with brewing? How'd you get into this?
A lot of home brews.
Okay.
I started not with Jeff Graff, but Jeff Graff at Paradise Brewing. I did my beer kits through him.
Sure.
And picked his brain a ton. And it's funny because years later I found out him and Sean worked together a bunch and stuff. Yeah,
he was the head brewer here for a very brief period of time.
Yep. There's actually an old menu out at our brewing spot that has their All-American IPA still written down. Yeah.
And which I believe there's a beer on tap at Paradise called All-American IPA.
I was there last week. Had it. It's delicious. It's really good. But yeah, so just did a bunch of brews myself through his knowledge and brew kits and stuff. That's just the main thing, just brewing my own beer and then drinking all of it.
What made you want to take the jump and go to a commercial side?
Actually, so I've been drinking here since like 2015. Well, over in Eastern Avenue, then I moved here. I'm one of the beer club members, just been a huge fan of Bad Tom Smith forever.
It's a bunch of kids looking in the windows.
They think we got popcorn right now. They come in every once in a while, give them popcorn. But been drinking here for years. Love the place. Been a beer club member for years. Our GM Jen, she was here one night having a rough night about a year ago, and I'm like, hey, you need some help? She's like, yes, come on in, help. We'll get you paperwork settled out. Just come help.
Right.
And then so I started bartending here. I'm doing all the events, bartending, doing all the beer fest and the tastings out at different beer shops and stuff like that. And became friends with Fernando and Brandon. Became friends with Sean. Picked his brain a bunch, talked a bunch, and had a little shake up with different employees. So it ended up being Sean moved to the financial side, and I'm taking Sean's spot.
Right.
And just couldn't be more excited. They offered it to me, and I was like, Yes, 100%. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Couldn't turn that down. No.
Right. Let's talk about some of the other sides of Bad Tom. We saw a little bit with previous ownership. They started kind of poking at the idea of doing bourbon.
Oh yeah.
That's gone a little bit bigger since you guys came in.
It is so good too.
Talk about that move to add kind of spirits into this. I mean, just with this location in general, the previous location there was not a full bar.
Nope.
It was. I'm not even gonna say it was a normal tap room. It was pretty weird.
Yeah,
it was
like
fun.
a closet.
But when this bar opened up, the full bar became an option. And that's gone even bigger. There's a cocktail menu, which I still find weird in the tap room personally. But
it is, but it was covering ground for a little bit of like on the business side of things.
I came in the other day and drank one. I had a cocktail, which I still don't understand why I go to.
What'd you get?
The burnt Bad Tom.
Who made it for you? Do you know?
I don't know. Yeah, I do. It was Lily.
All right.
Yeah.
We have a competition between me and her of who makes the best one.
Okay.
I like to mess with her.
Yeah, like the full bar and cocktail stuff like was my brother. He is an enormous bourbon fan, and since we already kind of went into the world of doing our own bourbon, his whole thing was eventually we kind of want to be somewhat like a bourbon tasting room.
Yeah, we'll talk about all that here in a little bit.
Yeah. So that kind of came in like then we just got the full bar and everything. So it kind of covers ground on two ends.
And so, do you have somebody that's running the bar, running a cocktail program, and kind of doing that thing, or is it just as things are kind of developing, somebody says, "Oh, hey, I had this idea, we should try this," and then people try it, like, "Oh yeah, we should put that on a menu."
A couple of our bartenders, Jen, the GM, she works out at Napa sometimes, so she's like knows cocktails like the back of her hand.
Right.
Melissa, same way, she's an expert cocktail. She's also how do you say it, sommelier.
Oh.
She's like a wine person too, so just gotta happen to randomly
We call
have
them wine nerds.
like just a wealth of knowledge for that kind of stuff back there, just randomly.
Right.
Our other bartender, Sean, he's the bourbon guy,
Okay.
and he pushes it like crazy, and everyone tries it. A lot of times, people just like, "Where can I get this? Get it right here." So they get a bottle.
So to be clear, you guys are not making the bourbon yourselves. You're sourcing the bourbon. Is there any plans to change some of that and start distilling?
There's thoughts, but they're not at the forefront right now because we have other things that we want to do, and so until those things come around, that's when that kind of thought process will start getting to the forefront.
And we also have at least 10 or 15 barrels still aging right now, out at the brewery. So we got a couple wheats, a bunch of rye, and so those won't be out for 4.5 years total. So it's about a year or two out. So
it's fun stuff though. To when Bad Tom opened, or when any of these older breweries around town opened up, like the idea of mixing those two worlds, I don't think it was crossing anybody's mind. Like it was so crazy that we could have a spot where people could come and drink beer at the place that it was made, or have a tap room that was like that was like enough. And then as things kept growing and things keep evolving, it's like, what if we did food and we didn't have to do it in the same way that the brew pubs used to be? What if we just did something kind of smaller and kind of more taproom-ish with food? What if we could offer, like spirits? What if we could have our own spirits? Like all these things are just so like novel and different than what the thinking was, even 3 years ago, or 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's fun watching that evolution and that change, and watching how people take that thing as it's happening. Like, all right, now how do we put our spin on this? How do we do this our way? And
even when you see places like 50 West, what they've done, like,
oh my God,
like they own that whole area now.
Yeah.
Like you go there and drop the kids off in the sand, play volleyball, drink a beer, have a
50
burger.
West, and they can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I am. I'm usually not wrong unless you ask my wife. But when they took over, when they put the production facility in across the street there, I don't think that the idea of having volleyball courts was in their mind at all. I don't think they wanted to even keep the volleyball courts, but it was too expensive to get rid of the volleyball courts, so I think they just kept the volleyball courts. And then they saw how that kind of affected the brand, and then that changed the whole direction of their brand. And it's like, okay, now we got to think this way. And then the burger bar becomes a thing, and then that becomes the brand. And it's like it's like you poke at something, and then you let that thing kind of develop into whatever it's going to be, and then you hang on and let it drag you to the next spot, and then you poke at something else and then you let that drag you somewhere. And that's fun. I enjoy that.
That's actually like kind of like our mentality too. Like bring something out, let it fester, see what happens, and then you either keep it or you lose it, depending on how well it does. But you never know what will work.
Right.
And like what we've been finding out is that what's really big with breweries, from our perspective, is their outdoor area.
Mm-hmm.
Like the just what Mad Tree has, what 50 West has,
Saunders, Third Eye.
Yeah.
you know, their outdoor areas are like a pretty big deal of what they do with it. And unfortunately for us, you know, we have a little small patio just because we're kind of landlocked here with between buildings and stuff. But you know, kind of like our thought process when we get a new location.
All right, let's talk about that. Let me drink another beer before we dive into that. You want me to go this one or this one?
We do the brown ale.
Okay. Tell me about this beer.
So that's our Bad Tom Brown Ale. It's kind of their flagship, really.
Right.
It's one of Sean's first beers that are still around. That
I would still say Fink has to be the flagship.
Yeah.
the names.
by name, and so that's usually what we take to like beer fest and type stuff, especially when we're not trying to bring our super strong beers. That Fink's 8.8, and
right.
so that's usually more.
It's also a beer style that you don't see nearly enough anymore. Just straight up like brown ales, like you know, it's kind of fallen off favor for people looking for some kind of weird, crazy hops
Like
or something.
Listerman's got their nut brown. I know Paradise has got a good one. That's the only really two people I can think of that really have a solid one.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about the beer. What do you get from it? What's your thoughts about it?
I'm not as good as you describing it.
Okay.
That vocabulary has never been my strong point in this way, but I do like drinking it.
I get big kind of chocolatey notes out of it, which I like. It's it's almost like it leans into that. And not that this is close to a stout, or a porter, but like into those darker beer kind of flavors.
Sometimes
that
people at breweries, their brown ales taste more like stouts.
Yeah,
I feel like this tastes more like a brown ale.
I love that kind of roasty, chocolatey kind of thing that it gives off. It's on a day like today where there's a little chill in the air.
Yeah.
This is the type of beer that I want. It's still light enough that I can drink a few of them, and is refreshing, but still has some of those big kind of darker flavors that I enjoy. Good beer.
Oh
Yeah, good beer.
And also with that, like, we had this one at Mitfest as our main one because they only let each brewery have just one beer.
Right.
And I did realize with this darker beer, it kept me warm.
Yeah.
And I was surprised by that. I was pretty cold that day.
That's a cold, windy day.
And then I was like, I just kept drinking, and I was like, you know what? I'm like, all right. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
This is also one of the if you're drinking this when it's warm outside and the beer does start to warm up a little bit, if you're sitting on a patio or something, it still starts tasting even different and better, and brings out other things, and like you don't have to worry about. You know, some beers as they warm up, they just kind of start to taste really lousy.
Yeah.
Or if you're if you're drinking an IPA in the sun, it's going to start to skunk pretty quick
Hot
if you're sitting
IPA
in
no
the sun. So
even at that Mitten Fest, there'd be people that it covered a wide variety of people. Sometimes like some people they're like, oh, I don't like stouts, or some people like I don't like ales.
Right.
But, like this kind of hits like a little bit of everything. And I know a lot of people they come and get a sample as they're walking, they taste it. And they turn right back. I'm like, all right, give me a refill. Like people really love them.
That's always a good sign.
Yeah.
All right, you mentioned it. Second location or new location, I guess, is how we should probably word this. Yes. Talk about that a little bit. What's the idea? How are you guys thinking about this? Why do it? Number one. Let's dive in.
Really, the thought is just because of how limiting the space is here. And also, we want to look like a brewery. Too many times people walk in here thinking we're just like a hole-in-the-wall bar.
Yeah.
And they come in here and like, hey, can I get a Bud Light or something?
Or vice versa. People walk in, hey, where's the brewing equipment?
Yeah, we get that too.
That's exactly it too, yeah. And unfortunately, this building is so old that if we put tanks in here, they would go straight through the ground.
Yeah.
So we brew out of Batavia right now. And because like I said, the space is very limiting as to like us looking or being like a full-fledged brewery. That's one of the big things that pushed us to make the decision to look for locations to build a whole new facility. And we also want that outdoor space.
Yeah.
We want that outdoor space to like accommodate, having fun out there, whatever it may be, cornhole, volleyball, whatever we can do with that space we want to do. And that was also a big factor into the decision. Anytime we have meetings, we always talk about outdoor space.
Yeah.
Especially with the summer coming in, and just our outdoor space, unfortunately, is not necessarily utilized all that much. People kind of just go out there, but
if I could jump in real quick about the outdoor space, one of the first things they did when they took over about 2 years ago, within a week, they got that door put in. Before, you had to walk out the front door around with glassware.
Yeah.
But within under a week, they had that installed and ready to go. That's how like most of us around here were like, oh, they're serious about this.
Right.
Yeah, they weren't necessarily too happy about us putting the door there, but it was like, all right, whatever at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like the outdoor space is actually very important to us, and like the mentality of like getting new people to come in to at least try, because as a brewery, we just want people to at least try, and you never know who will stick and who will like what you put out. So that was our first thought. And the other thing was that actually there were some locations that were asking us to put a brewery there,
Right.
because there's lack of, and in that local area, one of them being Union Township, and there's several other locations, Loveland, that we're looking at. We're also looking at the Batavia area, but we're kind of right now hearing them out. They're hearing us out.
It's a big decision. Like this in theory should be the location of Bad Tom Smith for the foreseeable future, if not ever. This is the spot. That's a big decision to make. You can't take it lightly of which spot you choose.
Not at all. And this is going to be a year's project.
Yeah.
Like this isn't something that's
Ish.
I'll be
Always
here.
say ish.
Ish. Yeah. So like, because we want to make sure that we're going to go to the right location, a location that needs us, and we're not just barging in and trying to like impose ourselves where other breweries have already been established.
Right.
So everybody gets kind of like their fair share, and also there are some neighborhoods still that are in need of a local brewery that it's like you don't have to go too far.
Right.
And so we're trying to find that right location and choose appropriately, because here in this location, we're sandwiched in between 50 West and Matry.
Right.
So that also comes with its own challenges, because like there is options here, but people
Those
are
are also two very loud type of places that people are going there because they want to go there. It's not like people are, oh, well, what's the brewery in this part of town? They already know.
Well, you also got High Grain up the street. You got Nine Giant not too far from there.
Yeah.
There's a lot around here.
Yeah.
So around here, we're pretty well surrounded, and a lot of established breweries are around here. So looking for that other location, we kind of want to be somewhat alone. Loveland does have
You got Narrow Path up there.
Narrow Path
there.
and DVD just opened up over there too.
Yeah, I just heard about that. So we're looking at all that,
Right.
making sure that, because also from my perspective, I don't want to step like on too many toes and be like we're kind of trying to take over or something. Because our new location, if we're doing a brand new build, in your article you had some drawings and stuff, like we're going to make this big.
Right. It's
wanna
very
go
big.
Yeah, we're going to make it 2 stories and with a large outdoor area. It's going to be a big project for us, and we're very excited about it, because we want it to be an experience for people.
Well, from my understanding, it's going to obviously bring the brewing back in-house to the location.
Yes.
But this idea of spirits becomes even more of a focus of the brand once this new location opens up.
Definitely, because we will also have like a bourbon tasting room where like that room would just be dedicated for like bourbon tastings and like just the bourbon line itself.
I heard bourbon and tequila.
So yeah, tequila we're working
I
on.
wasn't going to say it if someone else didn't.
Tequila is also another thing that we're working to get going. That one's a little bit more difficult just because of licensing and all
Sure.
that stuff. But Tequila in Mexico, it's ready. You know, it's ready for it to be brought up here. So we're just waiting for everything to line up right. But yeah, Cinco Crucitos tequila is what it'd be called. We get the Blanco, Reposado, Añejo, all three. Um, so
And that's a brand that your family is doing.
yeah, it's more of like a family brand. It's my brother's, but Cinco Crucitos, the name itself comes because he has 5 kids.
Okay.
And when you put Ito in
Got
front
it.
of like
Got it.
something small, so
Ah,
uh,
I like it.
it's kind of like you want to be cute with it. You
Yeah,
know? It's cool.
I like it.
But also my brother likes putting like the cruise name out there.
Yeah.
So like his development company is called Cruise Development. So he just puts cruise in a lot of things. Our Mexican lager is
Right.
called Don Fernando, which is named after our father and also himself. So yeah, it's about putting the name brand and the family out there as much as possible, and also making it seem like putting forth that we're a family business and
Right.
that we're very family oriented, and that's kind of what we want to showcase. So yeah, this new location, that's what we want to do. We want to make it for everybody.
It makes it when you talk about kind of his personality and or the personality that I'm kind of gathering from the way you talk about it, it makes it that much more interesting that you guys stuck with the Bad Tom brand.
Yeah, it does. It does definitely make it very interesting. But like I said, like my brother thought about it a lot,
Yeah.
and we had meetings about it. We had meetings about changing the branding and like, let's just do a complete 180 and flip it completely. And it just he liked it because we were receiving people that never heard of us were like complimenting the brand and like doing all that, and he would see that and he would see positive feedback that he was like, you know what, let's stick with this, let's make this work,
Right.
and keep the history, keep the keep everything that Sean has built, honor that, because we all really love Sean. He's a great guy. So sticking with the branding was our ultimate decision, and also making it family.
Right. Right. So we don't have any kind of time frame that we can tell people about this new location, right?
So right now, we can't really say too much about anything, but we've basically been narrowing it down to maybe like 2 places right now, and we're getting closer to having that decision made of like which location it will be. And as soon as we are able to say, we will say, okay, this is where it's going to be,
Right.
and kind of put all that pageantry with it and excitement with it and get people kind of like hyped up for it, because obviously we will be doing a grand opening for that location. That will become our flagship location and our main location. We will still keep this place open, this location, Madisonville, so people can still come here and,
Right.
and kind of, if they like this spot, they can still enjoy it and everything. So yeah, but we're really excited about having a much larger location where we could actually make it look like a brewery, and like have the tanks there, have like everything like you would see anywhere else, and people will come in and not be like, hey, let me have a Budweiser.
That's still gonna happen. Happens everywhere. Even
Yep.
Mad Tree gets that. What are like, and this is probably a big question, but what are some of the fears that you have going into an expansion like that or growing in that direction with Bad Tom Smith? What are the things that kind of freak you out?
The size,
It's big.
the size itself, because it's a big project. It's no small feat to like be like going from this to a 2-story building.
Well, and there is some comfort with being in a small kind of spot like this, tucked in the middle of a bunch of other. There's a lot of breweries around you, a lot of other noise, and it's easy to say like, oh, we had a bad month this month. It's because of this or because of that. Once you're out there, like you can't blame anything else. You're putting yourself out there and be like, all right, here we go, here we are. Come enjoy what we're doing, and like that terrifies me thinking about it.
Yeah, it's scary, but like along with like how my brother thinks about things, it's like just take things head on and try and make it work,
Yeah.
and do your best. you know, because like everything that our family has built and stuff has been on that. Like, just do your best, foot forward, keep going forward. But it is scary at the same time. But he's also the thought of like high risk, high reward. And you know that's fair. And this would be very high risk, and but it could also be a very high reward.
Yeah.
And putting finally the Bad Tom name on a much larger scale, like getting, you know, hopefully close to the flights of like 50 West, Matry, and you know,
Right.
Geist. But even if not, like it's still part of our legacy, and that's kind of a legacy that we want to kind of like leave and build here
Sure.
in Cincinnati. Because our parents are from Mexico, but we were all born here in Cincinnati, and we love Cincinnati, and we want to, you know, make our mark.
What brought your parents to Cincinnati?
Originally, my dad went to L.A. and then Chicago, and then
Just really liked Geta.
yeah, no,
Decided this was a better choice.
when he first got married.
Okay.
She was from here from
Yep,
Cincinnati.
got it.
So he came over here, but yeah, so we just ended up, most of our families in LA and Chicago kind of were like
Right.
more of like the Mexican community is
Gotcha.
more, but being born here and outside of that, kind of grew up a little different outside of that
Oh, yeah.
deep Mexican rooted culture, and kind of grew up Cincinnati, and I'm very, very Midwest.
It's interesting to watch too how like here in Cincinnati there is historically there hasn't been a ton of that Mexican culture. And watching how some of that has kind of grown over the years is fun for me. Somebody that loves that culture, you know, like it's changed a lot. And like there is, you know, going back to the tequila thing, like there's not that tequila is Mexican culture, guys. Don't send me emails. But there is like this move of people being interested in that culture that maybe that they were a little. I'll say a little afraid of for a while. There's a lot of people that were in this part of the country a little strange about Mexican culture for a while there, and I'm seeing changes with that.
Yeah.
And like there's room for people to appreciate tequila for what it is, or a Mexican lager for what it is. You know, like it's we're starting to see these little pieces of it in the drinking culture that I freaking love. You know,
And with like the tequila line, like tequila, I mean, even Mexico exports it as part of like a big part of Mexican culture.
Sure, yeah.
Because of how it all came to be. Like in Mexico, it used to be where only the state of Jalisco, that was the only state that you can make tequila in. It was illegal to make it outside.
It's very similar to bourbon for us in this part of the country, though. The
Kentucky.
pride that we feel about bourbon, and you know, when you hear about a distillery in New York making bourbon, what's going on there? You know,
Yeah, exactly. It's basically the same thing, and it's a very prideful thing. Like, you know, my parents are from a small town in Mexico, and all around it is just agave fields, and you see agave for miles.
yeah,
And a point of pride from being from the state of Jalisco is tequila
sure.
and mariachi bands. Like that's where the both of them came from, which is one of the largest points of Mexican culture that Americans know. So it's like really cool, and to like come out with our own tequila line is a very prideful thing and a cool thing for us.
Would still be the first tequila line from a Cincinnati brewery or distillery, because it is so hard to figure out a way to make that happen because it has to come from Mexico.
Unless it's what, an agave spirit.
Yeah, you can make an
call it.
agave spirit, but
Yep.
Yeah, and that's like that's the logistical hard part of it, is getting it from Mexico to here.
yeah.
And that's the way I think that's why like not everybody kind of gets on board with that.
It's too much work.
Yeah,
It's just too much work for everybody.
It really is.
But it's important. And to me, in the same way that like making a, I'm trying to think of a good example. You know, making a properly barrel aged sour beer, where you've got, you know, organisms that are inoculating a beer in a barrel and doing their thing, and then sometimes it turns out, sometimes it doesn't. It's too much work for most breweries. It doesn't make any sense when you can make a quick sour and people love it the same way, and you don't need to. But there is that little segment of people that are like, oh no, this is the thing that we want. This is the thing that we feel something about. It means something.
Yeah.
And it's the same way as that.
Yeah.
Let's drink this Mexican lager.
Oh yeah.
This was, I know that this was probably not, I know that this was not the first beer that you guys kind of kicked out once you took over ownership. But this was the first kind of big beer that we saw. This was the first one in cans, the first thing that we saw kind of big. Talk about the beer.
Well, the Mexican lager, like you said, it wasn't the first one that came out when we took over. It was more, it was Jackie Blue, a blueberry ale.
Right.
But with this one, it's basically, it is what it is, like a Mexican lager to our Mexican roots. And my brother's a big fan of like Modelo and Corona and like, Dos Equis and stuff like that. So he wanted to have his own Mexican lager. Now, I don't know if it exactly is the same thing as like the tequila stuff, but legally we have to put Mexican style lager.
Yeah.
We can't say that it's an actual Mexican lager. So, it's Mexican style lager. To me, the taste profile is like a bit of a stronger Modelo.
There's like a nice, let me get another sip. Hang on. Yeah, there's like a good like earthiness to it, kind of behind the crispy side. That's a beer that I could drink year round. It still has kind of the body and the character that in the wintertime, if I want something that I can just sit and drink, that fits that. But in the summertime, oh man,
Yeah.
that is the perfect summer beer. That is exactly what I want. That's great.
We want to try and make a lime and salt version of it. That's one of the other things we're thinking.
Yeah. This is a beer that could stand up to a lot of different things. You could go some of the fruited kind of stuff with it too. Throw some raspberry or something, and it'll be good. But I want it just like this.
Yeah,
this is exactly what that beer is supposed to be. There is like a weird, not weird. There's a huge growth in that Mexican lager category that is really fascinating to me. A lot of those people that were drinking light American lager go to this.
A lot of people will come in when they ask for Bud Light. I'll be like, nope, but try this. They always get it. They'll say, I'll take that.
I think it's almost because it has just like that next like step up of flavor from kind of light American lager, even, as much as I hate to say it, Pilsner.
Yeah.
There's, Pilsner's great. It's perfectly balanced, but there's just not a lot there. Whereas this kind of takes it up to that next little step, and that people kind of, whether they realize it or not, do enjoy that.
Yeah.
No, this is a great beer. Like I said, first one in cans.
Yep.
You guys have done how many different beers have you done in cans at this point?
4.
4. Yeah, 4. I've done 4.
We've done 2 batches of that one. We just made a 16-ounce can version of it recently.
Saw that because of your new trip into the stadium, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit.
So that one was a surprise to us, honestly. So my brother went into the Red Stadium for some business, and next thing I know, the next day I get an email saying, "Hey, here's the contract stuff. Read it over. We can talk about this. Have a meeting later and stuff." I go up to him like, "What is this?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, yesterday I just mentioned that I also own a brewery, and unfortunately." Who was the one?
It was Taft's.
Taft's, unfortunately, like everything that happened with Taft's.
Yeah.
They were leaving the stadium, and they're like, "We have a spot." And my brother's like, "Well, I happen to have a brewery." And from there, we just started having meetings with the sponsorship teams there, and very quickly, it happened so fast. Within 2 weeks, contract signed. They were happy. They tasted the beer. They were like, "Yeah, we can roll with this. And let's do it." And like you get your whole tap room, like we get a whole corner that's a tap room for us and stuff. 4 beers, 6 taps. It just happened so fast that it kind of is a bit of a whirlwind, because as soon as that happened, contract was signed in January, and we had to start brewing quick.
Yeah.
Because it was also outside our scope of like how much we brew because of our size, and we're like, okay, Reds, how much beer are you gonna get? And then
You want how much?
Yeah.
So Sean just went to work. Like he thought of it early, thankfully, and he was like, because We brewed the last one 2 weeks before we had to deliver to them.
This was 600 gallons of each of the 4 beers.
Yeah, and it was like it was a lot of beer, more beer than we ever have made at any given short time frame.
Right.
And we were like, wow, like we were very pleased and happy that we were able to pull it off, and that we have that whole thing there. The Reds owner has come and complimented the logo. He loves the logo and the mustache things. Like it goes very well with
Goes
the
perfect
Reds.
with the Reds. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and so it's been really cool. It's a really exciting. It's so fun to see it there and see people drinking it that would otherwise never know that we existed.
Have you seen some of that bleed over into the tap room? Have you seen people come in here like, oh, we saw you guys at the Reds game and we had to come check you out? And
after opening day, actually, right
perfect.
away. After opening day, we had somebody come in like, hey, what beers did you have at the Red Stadium again? And it's like, oh, did you just come from the Red Stadium? Yeah, I came over here to check it out. And we were like, all right. So
that's awesome.
It's doing what it's meant to do and put awareness of our brand and what we offer. We kind of, I like to look a little bit if we get any kind of reviews or anything from it, and things have been looking pretty positive. So we're kind of enjoying the moment and doing what we can to improve in any way to make the moment better for not just us, but for the people drinking the beer, because ultimately, this is for them. We're putting out a product for the people, and we want to do the best we can with it, and while also adhering to our flavor profiles and not deviating too much. And we're always open to making small changes here and there to make it better.
Right.
So the Red Stadium has really been giving us that room to grow, and the room to reach new people that we never would have reached before.
If you guys could tell people one thing that you think that they don't know about Bad Tom, what would it be?
I mean, a lot of people don't know anything about
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people that think they know something about Bad Tom too that probably are wrong about it. And for me, I want people to just keep coming back in and trying places. And I understand that it's possible sometimes when you walk into a brewery, you have a bad experience, or you drink a beer that you're not happy with. That doesn't mean in 6 months or longer, because I know there's been some people that have not been here since they were over on Eastern Avenue. It's try it again. And if you have a bad experience, that's fine, and I respect it. Tell your bartender and express to them why you didn't enjoy yourself, and then move along. Just try things. Keep trying stuff, and keep putting yourself out there for the experience. And
I know, me being behind the bar here, I've never had a person try something that I recommended them and then not like it.
Right.
Unless they're just being friendly and wouldn't say it. But but for the most part, people always I ask them what kind of beer they like. They tell me, and then I'm like, here, try this. They always love it. Never get on tap. We very rarely get anything bad reviewed. If people try our beer, I'd put money that they're going to love it.
Right. Get out here and try it, guys.
Well, and that goes along with the system before was, you come in, it's just a quick exchange. Now we have it where we want our bartenders to be, fully aware of the beer, and also help people choose the beer that they might like, and not just, be like, which one do you want?
Right.
We want it to be a friendly environment. We want it to be an environment that people can enjoy and get a good experience out of. And so we've kind of mitigated what might have been wrong in that sense and kind of shifted over. And we have a really good team right now that pushes that forward. And they do their best to be as knowledgeable as possible of the beer. And if not, they're just really friendly and always willing to help the customers out. So that's actually been a big shift for us in finding that team.
Well, and I can't emphasize enough for people, when you come in somewhere, if something that you don't enjoy happens, tell somebody about it. Send an email, tell your bartender, whatever it may be. Tell people what you liked, what you didn't like. Just keep sharing that information, and businesses that are good businesses will use that and continue to grow and evolve, and then hopefully next time when you come in, that thing will be fixed. And it's so simple, but yet so many people just kind of ignore it and kind of I didn't like it when they left, and they're not coming back. And I think that's the wrong way to do it. Let yourself enjoy a place, and keep coming back.
For sure. Send us emails, tell us your experiences, good or bad. Because if they were good, great, we'd love to hear it. If something just wasn't up to par, or something was missing from your experience, let us know, and we'll do our best to fix the situation, or do our best to make it a better experience for people.
Right.
Because again, with this new ownership, we are open to hearing criticism and doing what we need to do to fix things for the better.
Right.
Like I said earlier, creative criticism and legitimate criticism is always welcome. It's just sometimes you get those people that just want to talk a lot.
There's a lot of that happens.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking some time to sit down with me and helping to tell people the story, and hopefully everybody understands what is happening here and what is kind of this direction that things are going. Hopefully, I hope that you understand that.
I hope so too. We're thankful that you came and gave us this chance to be on the podcast.
Oh, of course. And get down here, have a beer here, and bring a bunch of friends with you, and especially friends that haven't been here for a while. Bring them here and kind of show them how things are changing and evolving, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. We'll be back next week. I have no idea what the episode is next week off the top of my head. I'm really bad at looking ahead of time to remember what next week is, but it's something good, and we'll be drinking great beer, and we'll be talking to great people, and you guys can always count on that. If you like this show, if you like any of the stuff that I do, you can go to thegnarlygnome.com/support, and you can support it that way, and otherwise just share the show with your friends and drink local beer. That's really the whole secret to this. Cincy Brewcast, it's the voice of Cincy Craft.